I am about to subject you to so much pain, chat. How masochistic are you, okay? How masochistic are you? Because, I found some new FreedomToons content. And it's mixed with our good friend, Jordan Peterson. But not only that, it's hosted by Michaela Peterson. We got two generations of Petersons, along with the shitty cartoonist. Let's do it, people.
It's like, what is Shrek? And that's a pretty straightforward question. Like, he's in.
I wasn't prepared for this. Guys, I don't watch a lot of this content before I hit the play button. I don't watch a lot of this content before I hit the play button. But I want us to all reflect on what we just heard. What is Shrek, when you really boil it down? What is the essence of Shrekiness? What color is Shrek on the inside? We may never know, aside from some ill-fated deviant art posts. Also, I love how pained Jordan Peterson looks. Our man Peterson has seen a Shrek or two in his time.
An ogre. He lives in a swamp. He doesn't have any friends, so he's not much different from you, roughly speaking. And in Shrek 2, which is a very old story, he has to go off to far, far away to meet his new in-laws. It's like, you may think meeting in-laws is a cakewalk, man, but it is not, especially if you're an ogre. And so what does Shrek do? Well, he brings his friend Donkey. And why is that? Why is it that he's always hanging around with a donkey? Well, because when you're an ogre who spends all of your time in the swamp, your only friend is going to be an ass.
Welcome to episode 117 of the Michaela Peterson podcast. In this episode, I had Seamus, the creator of FreedomToons, on the podcast with my dad. I hope you guys enjoy it. I've had a lot of personal changes, you could say, in the last few months. My dad's healthier than he has been in maybe 5 years.
Did you
My mom
stop
is healthy.
eating only
I'm
meat?
healthy. I just moved to Franklin, which is south of Nashville, last week, rather abruptly. Andre's moving too. Scarlett's coming up, and I've set up her room with everything pink. It's been an insane few months, / 29 years, really. I'll do a Q&A soon to update everyone, but things are going really, really well. In this episode, I went into a bit of a description about finding God, or God finding me. I'll get into that more in my Q&A because it's been pretty intense. It's something I've been searching.
I've never seen any of this show before, but I do love that they are advertising a grill on their show. That's pretty funny.
For a few years, and recently it clicked.
Who is this?
More
This is
about
the
that later,
daughter
though.
of Jordan
As you
Peterson.
can see, I'm recording on my phone because I'm going on Blaze TV tomorrow, and I don't have my studio set up yet in Franklin. It should be set up next episode. In this episode,
Girl, you might not have your studio set up, but that's no excuse to be filming vertically, okay? Only D-gens film vertically. Your phone is actually probably more stable if you put it on its side.
we covered Seamus's Catholic roots, his creation of FreedomToons, and there's a great amount of Seamus imitating my dad, which I at least found incredibly entertaining. I hope you guys enjoy this episode.
She found God. What? Wait, why is her... Okay, wait. Why is her symbol a lion wearing a suit? What is this? Why is this? This is her dad's persona? Oh, because she's a carnivore? But why wouldn't it be a lioness? This is her channel. I don't understand. His persona would be a lobster too. Yeah, 100%. I'm guessing clip art? I mean, that's possible. Alright. I'll take one for the team and fix her. I mean, good luck, okay? But also I'm judging you harshly.
Seamus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's much appreciated.
I surprised you with my dad.
You did surprise me with your dad. It was a very pleasant surprise. We were working out technical difficulties, so I didn't have too much of a chance to fanboy over him. It's great to meet you, Doctor.
Thank you. Is it you that does those horrible imitations of my voice?
I wouldn't say horrible. I'm the one who does the really good ones.
Has he punched his wall several times? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they're appallingly good. And
thank you. I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, very amusing.
I'm actually very happy to hear that. And I think one mark of a person's level of humility is their sense of humor about themselves. And so it's been fantastic the way that you've reacted to them and shared them around, not only because it gives me publicity, but I think it reflects very well on you that you've been so cool about it.
Yeah, well, there's much worse things than having comedians think that you're interesting enough to parody you. I mean, I don't see how you can take offense to that. It's like, what do you want to be ignored in some hole in a corner?
Jordan sounds like he's about to, like, pass out.
Like see sometimes how that might be okay too, though.
Yeah, exactly. See, this was exactly why I became a cartoonist, to do political commentary. No one has to see my face. I've outed myself now, but...
Okay, so before we get into conversation, Seamus, I think you should give a brief background about who you are and what you do to anybody who isn't familiar with your work.
I started cartooning when I was really pretty young. I mean, I was that kid who was drawing and doodling in class rather than paying attention, which is evident based on my level of intelligence and the things I say in my work. People go, these cartoons are great, but if only this kid had paid attention in school.
Honestly, Seamus, if you had paid attention in school, it would have saved us from a lot of your cringe. Who is this guy? Oh, yeah, here. You if you don't know what FreedomToons is, let me introduce you, okay?
Why is everyone leaving me?
You know why? It's because they're intimidated by how good of a governor you are.
They're all going to stupid Texas and Florida.
Ugh, don't they know how horrible it is to live there? I heard Ron DeSantis doesn't even wear a mask.
What? I mean, I don't, but at least I make you do it.
Exactly. That's leadership.
And yet, I can't help but feel like Florida is doing something right.
Something right? Gavin, they have no value for public health. And they don't even have homeless people shitting in the streets.
What? What would that even look like?
And they've never, let medieval diseases brew in their cities. It's crazy.
I guess that makes me feel better. But I don't know. If everyone's leaving, maybe we're the problem?
Gavin, that's paranoid. Mass numbers of people flee good, well-run states all the time. Unless you're trying to tell me Illinois and New York have problems.
Oh, come on, I'm not crazy.
The public just isn't mature enough for California right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's definitely nothing to do with a pandemic that is the deadliest in our history and is rapidly approaching the deadliest thing to ever happen in America. Definitely nothing to do with that and living in cities, and definitely not something related to the flight of the rich and wealthy to other parts of the country, so people then cross over into other states looking for work. Definitely not any of these things. Definitely not related. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. It's fine, guys. Florida's fine. Like, you guys don't understand how fine Florida is. Like, sure, Florida has hundreds of people dying per day. But, you know, like, that's normal. It's normal for Floridians to die every day. Don't worry about it. It's, you know, just a whole lot of people dying. Only, look, it's not that big a deal, guys. Not that big a deal. Look, just because 1 out of every 300 Floridians has died from COVID, like, come on, stop being all hyperbolic.
Who needs them anyway? Stupid citizens.
And you know what else? Those dummies are driving up all the property value in Florida.
Oh, they are? You still think I'll be able to afford a place here?
Of course. You belong among your people.
Yeah, we just hit 700K, which I think equates to like 25,000 people in the United States dying over the last couple weeks. Or 25,000 people dying per week over the last several weeks. Entrama, why did you don't ban... What are you doing? Entrama being really heavy-handed here. All mods are bastards, okay? I never ban you unjustly. Rise up against Entrama, the tyrannical mod. So anyway, this guy creates those shitty cartoons.
Teaching myself to animate when I was about 13 years old, using a very old software. And I just kept advancing with it. When I was 14, I took on my first freelance gigs, which paid, you know, pennies. But I was excited to be working in my field. And so by the time I finished high school, I knew I wanted to start a business in animation production. And the demand for animators had risen something like 30% that year. And I thought, all right, this is a good time to try it. And what people don't know about the animation industry is it isn't just Disney. In fact, it isn't even just cartoons like I do. A lot of it is just designing graphics or doing motion logos for people, that kind of thing. And so I thought that when I started, I was mostly going to be doing that stuff. But as it would happen, I found this conservative organization that wanted to hire me to do these short little cartoons. And it was this small little website that a friend ran, basically. And so they asked me, would you like to make some cartoons for us? And we'll put them on our website. And there wasn't really much success with them, but they enjoyed that I was making them. So I think we maybe did 3 episodes. And at the time, I was extremely libertarian. I'm much more conservative now. But problems sort of began to arise because their website merged with a larger conservative organization. And I never really ended up doing anything for them because when we started, they would kind of give me notes on things. And I also had this feeling that I might end up having to promote things that I personally didn't believe in at the time. So I thought, I'm just going to start uploading these cartoons to my YouTube channel. I'll just start making my own stuff that no one is giving me notes on and that I get to engineer all by myself. And I'll put them on my channel and we'll see what happens. And so I started doing that and it gained traction over time and eventually took off to being what it is today. And a lot of that was grinding and being consistent with the release schedule. And a lot of that was just also prayer and providence.
Okay. Well, number one, that is really good advice, okay? If you're going to do something, if you're going to put out content, you have to be consistent with it, okay? Or, I don't know, maybe you don't have to be consistent. I find it helpful for me to be consistent because it's helpful for all of you and because I am, frankly, too lazy to set up a notification system to let you guys know when I go live. She looks so cultish. She looks fine. She looks fine. That being said, like, the whole, like, then God willed me to be a successful cartoonist. Like, nah, dude, you found your weird conservative niche. That's what happened. Hey, Vodimus Prime.
And I've got a story about that I'd like to get into in a little bit, just about the intervention of St. Joseph and the role I believe that's played in my career.
The intervention of St. Joseph? Wait, I'm not Catholic. What does that mean? For any, where are my Catholics at? What does it mean for that to happen? Could Burdad? Is he Jarir? In his Jarir? For what to happen? He said, like, Saint Joseph intervened or something? It means 8 years ago it would be Saint Barack Obama. Yeah, Barack Obama happened and that saved his career. Yo, that's exactly what happened.
So that's where this discussion goes completely off the rails.
Exactly. Come on, Dr. Peterson, are you capable of a discussion that doesn't go completely off the rails?
That's a good question on many levels of analysis, believe me. So how successful is FreedomToons now?
That's a really good question. So in terms of the raw numbers, the channel we're approaching 700,000 subscribers. Jesus. I have probably about 3 people who work with me as animators pretty regularly, and we're going to be bringing more on. I've also branched out and I service other organizations that I think could use animation and whose message I want to promote. And so it's expanded into a small business and animation production generally, which is great because what I wanted from the start was to be able to serve these underrepresented communities within entertainment. I knew that conservatives and Catholics weren't really getting their fair
sounds
share.
Pretty politically correct to be serving underrepresented.
I know, exactly. That's how I put it. So, Doctor, I went to art school. I had to find ways
to... Yeah, what would the Catholic Church do without an independent cartoonist advocating for them? What would they do? What would the Republican Party, what would those poor billionaires do without this guy's help?
To couch these things when my professors asked what my aspirations were that wouldn't get me thrown out. And so I'm just saying, there's some groups that aren't all that well represented in media. And part of the problem is conservatives generally haven't been that great at producing entertaining media. And I've gotten into some of the reasons for that. I think the problem is conservatives will put too much emphasis on the message and not enough on just making it entertaining. And the reality is, if you make something entertaining, by virtue of the fact that you wrote it and you have your values are going to come through and they're going to be promoted in some way. But I think a lot of people don't realize that. And so their work is unsubtle and it fails. And so I just knew that I wanted...
Wait, your most recent cartoon is literally like 2 minutes of Gavin Newsom just talking about how much California sucks. What are you talking about? Yeah, you're so subtle with your messaging, Seamus.
To work, like I said, with just Catholic and generally conservative organizations, and to promote good values and help fight in the culture war in some small way.
Yeah, it's a strange situation when conservatives start to develop a sense of humor.
It is.
The world's turning upside down.
That's what you see. So here's the thing. I think we've generally had a pretty good sense of humor that people haven't recognized, because for years and years, the conservatives were the butt of every joke on television, and conservatives were still watching and laughing at it, even when they were the ones getting ripped on.
Well, I would even argue that people who are conservatives right now aren't really that conservative.
That's also very...
Yeah, right now, people who walk up and tell you that they're a moderate conservative, they're not conservative enough. Most of the time, they're just fascist adjacent. They don't embrace the tenets of fascism like we do. Oh gosh. Oh yeah, Somnia Static. Yeah, I would not be surprised. But their Patreon is like somewhere like 4K per month, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they do business for like Coke Run Media.
Very true. That's very true.
So we might have just switched into the people who were funny, right? If you think about liberals, and then in the 60s, like I feel like most conservatives are way closer to that, or maybe even 70s. I'm not sure.
Yeah, conservatives today are way closer to comedians in the 60s and 70s. No, they're not. They're really not. Comedians in the 60s and 70s would hate these fuckers. Yeah, next up they're gonna be like, why can't SNL be more like that hilarious prankster Stone Toss? He's just a good old conservative moderate.
No, that's a really interesting point. It's difficult to define the right, and I've said this in the past. The way that I define the left is essentially as acting against the Catholic Church and her values, because we see the inception of the left at the French Revolution. And their goals were very plainly stated. They were acting against virtually everything that I believe is good in the world. And conservatives don't necessarily exist as a force for the church, but they exist as a force against the left. And it can become difficult to define what that means, because the left takes different shapes and forms in terms of the ideas that it wants to promote in any given era. What's fashionable among them changes very frequently. And so conservatives, because they define themselves in opposition to the left, as opposed to having their own core values that they understand well, aren't really a well-defined group, unfortunately. It's something like, at this point, conservatives are just a group of people with vaguely similar views about the economy, I think, and a wide variety of social perspectives. And in some ways, it's good to have a large...
Yeah, I don't think there's as wide a variety of social perspectives as you think, bud.
10. But the lines can't become so blurred that nothing means anything anymore. And I think that is something which has kind of happened in the conservative movement.
I'm curious about your conservative beliefs and the relationship between that and...
The owner of the YouTube channel is Seamus Coughlin, who also happens to have connections with the Foundation for Economic Education, a free market libertarian think tank, and associate member of the State Policy Network, and a partner organization of the Charles Koch Institute. The think tank has also received funding from Donors Trust and Donors Capital Fund, which has more ties to the Kochs. Okay, yeah, that's pretty. I would say pretty damning. Hating gay people is variety. Look, to conservatives, hot sauce is too hot, but, you know, the hottest thing they can think of is hating the gays.
And your Catholicism and why you were attracted to Catholicism. I mean, you're a young man, and so you're kind of a rare bird. Well, you're probably the only one like you, a conservative Catholic young animator.
So you'd be surprised. There are more of us than you think, but we lurk in the shadows. I believe that, so I was raised Catholic. If you can't tell from the hopelessly ethnic name, I'm from an Irish Catholic family. And I was raised right outside of Chicago.
No, Jordan B. Peterson is basically like, he's like a weird, like, agnostic, like, mysticism.
And my entire extended family lived in the inner city, and it was very large. It was a very large family. And so we would get together for family gatherings a lot, and they almost always revolved around the church in some way. And so it was culturally instilled in me. But more importantly, my parents were true believers, and they did what they could to ensure that I would be a true believer as well. Now, unfortunately, at some point...
For example, they sent me to a gay conversion camp and tortured me until I became straight. Christian values.
The world gets its claws on you. And in my teens, I would say I very much fell away from my faith. And
in your teens when you started making conservative animations? Okay.
I believe in my very late teens, like when I was 19, I maybe even told my brother at some point that I was functionally an atheist. I was kind of going through the motions. I didn't really accept it in my heart. And at the time, I thought that's because I was reading all of these good arguments for atheism. But in retrospect, a lot of it was a desire, I think, on a subconscious level to justify the life that I was living. Because as it is said, you either live what you believe or believe what you live. And I was sort of going to church as fire insurance. But I don't know that in fact, I do know that I didn't really hold the values in my heart because I would just...
Yo! Joe, thank you so much for the raid. Everyone go follow Silly Serious. And welcome, Raiders. My name's Riverboat Jack. I talk socialism and being leftist and decommodification, democracy in the workplace, that kind of thing. I like talking about those things. We got to talk today about postal banking, and I was very excited for that. Please click the little picture of my face below stream so I get credit for your lovely, lovely eyeballs. And stick around, get yourself a little comfy, and consider hitting that follow button. I hope you had a lovely stream, Joe. Welcome, everybody. You lovely, lovely humans. Joe raided and ran. That's okay.
sin.
Oh, we're watching an interview between Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson, and the guy who makes FreedomToons, which is Republican propaganda.
And then I would tell myself, I can go to confession, I'll be forgiven, it's fine. I would continually presume upon God's mercy. And when you don't respect God, inevitably you stop believing in him. And so when I was about 20, I won't get too into detail, but I had an experience that was traumatic for me.
How y'all doing,
And that's when it clicked that bad things can happen to me, which is something that many young men don't realize, and I certainly didn't. And then you put it together that, well, a bad thing can happen to me, and if bad things can happen to me, because
I just watched FreedomToons. Can you recommend a good oncologist? So it took him until he was 20 years old to realize bad things can happen. Okay.
because I'm made of the same stuff everyone else is, then the worst possible thing could happen to me. I could end up in hell for all of eternity. And that's when I really began to seriously consider that. And also when I was in the midst of this frightening situation, I genuinely believed the Blessed Virgin was there for me. So at this point, I really started taking
what is
my
that?
faith.
Sorry, can you pause for a sec? So
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar. I mean, my dad is my dad, but I'm not super familiar with the intricacies of.
Yeah, I'm not Catholic either. I don't have this background, so I'm interested to hear more about this. What about the Blessed Chad? Hail Soybeck, I believe the Catholic line goes like God's a really busy deity, and so like the saints do like the underling work.
Religion or Catholicism. So when you said you believed the Blessed Virgin was there for you, what does that mean?
So I'm trying, I don't want to get too much into detail about the specifics of the circumstance, but my brother was there with me and he started praying a Hail Mary prayer. And you could say that in large part, it solved the problem. I wish I could be more detailed than that.
Interesting.
I feel like as somebody who came from a very like conservative fundamentalist Christian background, I feel like this has something to do with pornography. I don't have any like 100% smoking guns here. I'm just getting the feeling that this involved some degree of pornography, and just like that, my boner disappeared. Like, or he was like drawing furry porn for money and like dropped it into the trash can. You know, like I feel like there's something related to pornography here. Then I shot a spirit bomb at the negative feelings. Also, y'all, there's like there's like very little to no biblical evidence for like hell. That's a later addition, along with the devil. Just as an FYI.
That's very interesting. I can talk about this because I haven't talked about it before, but I grew up with Dad, so I learned a lot about the like psychological significance of the Bible, which is the YouTube series on, and it was always kind of through that lens, like metaphors. And then I had like way too many really absurd experiences that I couldn't wrap my head around, where I was like, my life doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. This is too weird, like too coincidental. And that happened for like 5 years, like every day. And and then some rough experiences over the summer. And about a month ago, I would say, I think I can say this. I would say I found God, which I haven't before. Like I definitely haven't before. And it was very sudden. And it was when I
like, even so sorry, I know we're getting into this a little bit, but like the concept of hell was taken from like the Jewish concept of like Gehenna, which is like a cleansing place for the soul until you like make atonement or something. So like I don't know, even like the original conception of this isn't like you just suffer from all eternity and that's it. Like, goodness. Professor Fappington, thank you so much for hitting that follow button. I appreciate you and your incredible name and incredible timing during this holiest of discussions.
I was anyway,
Natty
what I've
Cakes,
been
thank
doing
you for
for
the
the last,
raid.
I'm pretty new to this, and what I've been doing for the last like
Howdy. We're just talking about heaven, we're talking about hell, we're talking about religion, we're talking about this thing that we're watching, which is with Michaela Peterson and Jordan Peterson and the creator of FreedomToons, which is Republican propaganda. Maddie, I hope you had a wonderful stream. Hi, I love you too, okay? You make my heart go doki doki. Which might be the most weeby thing I've said, and I immediately regret saying it. Wait, what? Oh yeah, no, like the Greek and Roman underworlds definitely have more of a bearing on the concept of hell, but the concept of hell was invented as like the alternative of like Gehenna, or like the Christian interpretation of that. Only Monica. I need to play the deluxe version of that game that released. I've only played the free version. Okay, I can't.
month or so is reading the Bible and praying.
Good for you.
And I guess in a way that's more like Protestant, probably. And it's been the like amount of peace that I've had, I haven't had before.
Yeah.
It's completely absurd. I can't believe it. Like, so I was looking forward to talking to you because my mom practices Catholicism and I haven't really understood it very well because I felt like part of it was kind of, I don't want to say vindictive, but I felt like there was a punishing element to it, so that if you do something wrong, it's like, you know, repent and kind of punish yourself. And I feel like with my type of brain, I have enough guilt in me that I punish myself enough for anything I maybe even don't even do that wrong. So I was like, I wasn't very attracted to the whole Catholicism thing because I thought there was a punishment element. So I was interested in talking to you to like learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I have some thoughts on the punishment element, but I'm curious, can I ask about your experience first?
Yeah.
So when you said you felt you discovered God, what was that? Was it just like in a single moment you realized that things just lined up too well? Or...
I did it.
It was like, I
Hello,
had this one
Box
day where I was
Fox.
worrying about a number of, there
Hello,
were like
Reducted.
4 really important, and I'm not going to get into details
That's fine.
either like you did, but like
yeah,
4
exactly.
really, I get it, 4 really important parts of my life and all of them were going really badly. Like in ways where I was like, am I not trying hard enough?
Yeah.
Like, what more can I do? I can't do more to fix these 4 major problems. And then I met somebody. I was going to.
I mean, look, it is really calming to have an answer that seemingly simplifies the world, you know? Like when you can blame all of the problems on, like, oh, God made it that way, so that's just the way it is, you know? Like, that can give you a sense of peace, you know? But I don't think complacency is the answer. Hey, Nemo Animus.
check out Austin to see if I wanted to stay in Austin for the winter, which I don't. But I met somebody there and he's Christian, and he was like, well, how are you managing with all these problems? And I was like, I'm not managing well. I'm really not managing well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm working and I'm keeping it together, but I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be like clinically depressed, and I wasn't depression. I just wasn't feeling good. And he was like, well, that's why you need God. And I said, okay, well, that's fine and dandy. You know, it's nice when somebody comes up to you and is like, well, you need God, because that's, how are you supposed to wrap your head around that? So I was like, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, okay, maybe that sounds great, but I don't know how to get there. And he said, just beg for him to reveal himself to you. Like, ask him to, that's what he said, ask him to reveal himself to you. And so I went home that night, and I was pretty upset about like
Jordan
these
Peterson's
4
daughter.
major problems. And I was in bed, so I was praying, like seriously praying, like, please give me some sort of sign, please reveal himself to you. And the next day, all 4 problems cleared up in ways that I like made sense. It was like they could have cleared up, but the likelihood of all 4 of them clearing up randomly that day was just too much. So that happened. And I also woke up with this sense of calm I hadn't felt, like the sense of calm right here. And that was enough. I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. So it was kind of like a click there, which is different for me because I think I've been talking about it on the podcast a little bit and bringing people on and talking to my mom, but nothing clicked. So it was really sudden click. And then everything was great for about 2 weeks. So I was praying, I was reading the Bible. I was like, this is fantastic. Everything's working out. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, just a little bit, just this one little thought that was like, well, you know, am I being silly? There are actual, like, more logical explanations for why things turned around. And that happened. And then I had 2 just miserable days. So it was just 2 miserable days. And it was like, what is happening? Why do I feel this like existential?
Like, did people... Okay, genuine question. People know that, like, if you believe in God, that, and like pray regularly and go to church, that's not, they know that that's not going to make their life like fix all of their problems, right? Right? Like, I feel like that inherently creates this worldview where if you believe that, then when you see people who are poor, you just blame them for not having enough faith. I don't know. I feel like maybe, yeah, like pray the poor away. You're having problems because you're weak. I don't know. I come from like this religious background, so like I'm not trying to like dunk on these people, because I don't think that's productive. people who believe that way have to come up with an arbitrary degree to which they have control over their life versus God. Yeah. Yeah. Ray, toss those bootstraps and grab those prayer straps. Nietzsche. Look, don't listen to what I say. Listen to what I mean. All right.
Existential horror again, which I would differentiate from depression because I've been depressed before. This was really like existential angst.
Yeah.
And so then I think I went back. It's not like I'd stopped reading the Bible or stopped praying, but I was just a little bit more removed from it. Yeah. And so I went back to it, and then I had the most wild dream. So I was talking to my parents about this and being like, I think I found God. Like, isn't that crazy? And I went to sleep that night, and I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I had a dream. I think I'm allowed to talk about this stuff, but I had a dream, and this loud thundering voice just yelled, "Do it," in the dream. And I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and was like, I think I just got yelled at by God. I think that just happened. That's what it felt like. What does that mean? What does it mean? So I had kind of a rough morning. It was like,
that was enough for you to think that God talked to you? Somebody said do it in a dream? You got Shia LaBeoufed by God? I mean, alright, but like, I feel like it would take a little bit more for me.
I don't know what this means. Is that really what happened? And then it occurred to me that I think what it meant was just go all in. Don't do this like 75% in. Anyway, so it's been a wild month. I'm doing really well. It's just, I'm a little bit shocked.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
Wait, that happened a month ago?
There's a few things to watch out.
Wait, did she just say that happened a month ago? Wait.
And then it occurred to me that I think what it meant was just go all in. Don't do this like 75% in. Anyway, so it's been a wild month. I'm doing really well. It's just...
Wait, that was this month? I thought she was talking about an experience she had like... years ago. Oh, okay. So this is... Somebody asks you how you're doing, you're nodding along. You're like, oh, this happened to you a while ago, huh? Yeah, it's been a wild month.
I'm a little bit shocked.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. I would say there's a few things to watch out for as you move through your path as a Christian.
Let me say, I did not anticipate the vast majority of this interview being about Catholicism.
Just know that there are going to be many ups and downs. And you mentioned feeling a profound peace. And that's instructive because the world can give you many things, but it can't give you peace. That kind of peace can only come from God. And it's important to remember, however, that while I believe firmly that you're going to be happier living a Christian lifestyle because you're going to be doing the things God made you to do, many of the holiest saints had very difficult lives and were very miserable, but there was a joy in their misery because they understood that this was for something greater. And just the fact that they were doing the will of God, the fact that it was God's will for them to be miserable was enough for them to rejoice in their own misery.
I think that if you go and read the Bible, you're going to find a lot of people who did not find it all that pleasant. Like the story of Job, for instance. Job was not rejoicing in his experience. Goodness. I had to leave because I was in pain. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Everyone go follow the Silly Serious, please. I hope you're not in as much pain, or in any pain now.
Yeah,
And
well,
so
we'll see. That might take me a little bit of time to get to.
it might take me a little bit of time to get to too. It's tough. It's tough. And one thing I have found that has helped me spiritually is like, just when you're suffering or when you're miserable, thank God for letting you suffer. Thank God for showing you that misery, because A, it shows you how much you need him, but B, those closest to him will suffer the most. I mean, look at his only begotten son. So we should expect suffering as Christians. And it's easy to like when things are going well, we want to praise God, and that's good because we should. And when things are going really bad,
Yeah, no, it's not just Catholics, Hail Swipeback. A lot of this is baked into like a lot of evangelicalism. Like rejoice in suffering. Pain is basically a good thing. Like they want people to like, yeah, literally, if you think God is telling you to murder your kid, go and do that, okay? Like that's the kind of thinking that they want. Yeah, chat upgrade Parkside Twan. You can see all your happy little emotes, all right? Oh, mommy. Hey, 10-minute lungs.
And it's also important to remember that this is the author of all things, and the reason I'm going through this is because he wants it to make me better. And so I would just advise you that as you start to move through the spiritual life and things get really difficult, thank him for the troubles.
Oh, Daddy.
Because that means he's calling you to a real relationship with him, I mean, like he's calling you to a relationship where you suffer for him, which is what love is fundamentally.
Yes, love is suffering for others. I feel like that gives you a really fucked up relationship dynamic. Like, if you just feel like loving someone and being loved by someone is supposed to be suffering, like, yo, you got some issues.
And that's not, by the way I worded that might have come off as if I was suggesting you don't have a real relationship now. That's not at all what I'm saying. But when he calls you to that kind of suffering, it's to strengthen your connection to him and your love for him.
Oh yeah, no, Hail Swipeback in a lot of Christianity, like enjoying life is kind of not the goal. Life is viewed more as like a hindrance and like an annoying time in your life, preventing you from being with God.
Okay. Dad, any comments, or are you just listening?
Well, I hope I've got this right. It's been a long time since I thought about this, and so apologies if I get it wrong, but when Christ comes back in Revelation,
Oh my gosh.
he comes back as a judge.
Yep, the silly serious. Yep. Yep. Also, he's about to talk about some Chaos Dragon or some shit. I can't wait.
Essentially. And Carl Jung's comment on that was quite interesting, is that the Christ presented in the Gospels, the merciful element is emphasized, but both mercy and justice are pinnacle moral principles, and they're opposed to one another to some degree. Justice means the imposition of the necessary rules, and mercy means forgiveness for transgressing against them, let's say. And so you have to use mercy and justice continually, say, when you're dealing with children, because you want them to live according to a high moral standard. But of course, they're going to fail. And so you have to forgive. And so there's this balance between mercy and justice that seems necessary. If you forgive everything, then there are no standards by which to live. And if you impose the law stringently to the letter, then everyone is doomed, because
I don't think that this is what most people took from Revelations. As somebody who's read it a few times, I don't think that what Jordan Peterson is talking about right now is the mainline take from this from that story.
Everybody fails, and so there's this constant balance. Anyways, Jung believed that Christ in the Gospels was primarily presented as a figure of mercy, and that needed a balance to make the image of perfection complete. And so the justice element is emphasized in Revelation. And one of the things Christ says is that, I know your works.
This is some wackadoodle nonsense here.
That you are neither hot nor cold. I could wish that you were cold or hot. And then it continues. Give me one more second here. So because, it's even more, it's more, what would you say, direct than that. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And the spew, it really means something like vomit. And it's an allusion to disgust. And so it's a very interesting idea, is that the people for whom the most severe judgment is reserved aren't the committed sinners or the committed saints. They're the people in the middle who sort of play both ends against the middle, who won't commit. And so it's possible, Michaela,
by the way, this is one of my least favorite things, right? Like, people who take this and are like, yeah, this is what it means, and they take like a line out of context, right? When, if you like actually read the section, like these are messages to different places at different times. Like, this is literally a section writing different letters to different churches. Like, right here, to the church in Laodicea, I don't know how to pronounce that. These are the words of the Amen, the faithful and the true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing, but you do not realize you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in fire, so that you can become rich, and white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes so you can see. Like, this is to the church congregation. This isn't like you're supposed to take Revelations 3:16 and just like apply that to everybody. I don't know.
Voice in your dream. This method of dream interpretation, by the way, is called amplification, and it's a Jungian technique. And so, your imagination presented this to you as something akin to a personal revelation. And so this is a amplification with a more impersonal revelation. It's don't play both ends against the middle, right? Commit.
Why should we care about what the insane bullshit Bible says? Well, you should care specifically if you're interested in having like conversations with people who think along biblical lines, you know, which unfortunately is the vast majority of political power in the United States. Has a whole lot to do, a whole lot of investment in this kind of rhetoric, unfortunately, on both sides of the aisle. And in order to get things done, we need to be considering these sorts of arguments. We need to understand where they're coming from, understand what they're getting wrong, and also understand how to meet them on their own turf and defeat their arguments that way. Again, you have to meet people where they're at, and if you're not doing that, they're not going to hear you, they're not going to listen to you. And even if your goal is just talking to a single person in private, rather than like talking to an audience in public, like, you still need to have an idea about this rhetoric in the in a US context, I think.
Commit to what you're doing fully, and that's perhaps now it isn't clear what that meant because the dream wasn't that specific. You have to work that out for yourself. You know, when you're doing something halfway, well, perhaps that's not for the best. So
it didn't even feel like halfway, though. It felt like 75% or 80 at that point. And I feel even that wasn't good. It was like 100 or nothing.
Exactly.
That's what that felt like.
You know, Christ didn't 80% die on the cross for you, you know? He went and did it. And we have to love him. He did not hedge his bets with us. I mean, he loves us so radically that he gave his life up on the cross. He died on the cross for us. And for us...
he had two other aspects. The Trinity makes him an entirely different being. Or does it? I just started a massive church schism. Oh no.
Us to see that and respond by saying, let me hedge my bets, is obviously unbelievably insulting. And so I think it makes sense for the lukewarm to be spit out. And that's sort of how you could describe me, because like I said, I was going to church at this time. And I said, I still identified as Catholic, but again, I remember telling my brother at one point I was functionally an atheist. So
are in a lot of pain.
I was probably more towards the cold end, but I think lukewarm would be a fair description.
This episode is brought to you by Blazing Bulls.
Okay, unfortunately I know that she said Blazing Bulls, but it really sounded like something else.
But again, I remember telling my brother at one point I was functionally an atheist. So I was probably more towards the cold end, but I think lukewarm would be a fair description.
This episode is brought to you by Blazing Bulls. This is the best grill.
Fair description.
This episode is brought to you by Blazing Bulls.
Would be a fair description.
This episode is brought to you by Blazing Bulls.
Would be a fair description.
This episode is brought to you by Blazing Bulls. This is the best.
Oh, I can't. You really gotta enunciate, Michaela. You really gotta enunciate that word.
Or about the work that you're doing online and your animation and what effect that's had on people and what you're planning on doing with that. So who all do you imitate? You do Ruben.
Kind of everybody. So the thing with Ruben is my Ruben impression is one of my most popular, but I don't think it's good. The video I did on him, I wrote it as a writing exercise because there were a bunch of other impressions I wanted to do. And I was like, well, where would all these people, all these like conservative or conservative adjacent or IDW figures who I was impersonating, like where would they be? And like, of course, they would be on Dave Rubin's show. So I just put him there as a framing device and I didn't have any lines for him to say. So I just had him say, I agree. with everything they said. And the reason he said that is because I think he hits his G's kind of funny. And it was the only thing I had for an impression where you just go, I agree with that. I agree. And so,
yo, the most damning thing about this video is that even this guy's like, yo, I don't know what I would make Dave Rubin say. His ideas are so bad.
he just does that over and over. A while ago, I recorded a video. It was actually about 2 years ago. So I did a video making fun of Dave Rubin. And I went way harder on him than I meant to. I really did not mean to be that mean, but people in the comments were like, man, like you really got him. And I was like, oh no, like my goal was not to tear the dude apart, but he had a really good sense of humor about it.
Welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm your host, Dave Rubin. The regressive left has abandoned liberal values.
This is...
The left is no longer
doesn't
liberal.
sound like him.
They're regressive. The road to hell is paved with regressive intentions. Regressive, PC culture, regressive left. Today's non-regressive guest from the non-regressive left, here to talk about the regressive PC leftist culture, is noted non-regressive Sam the Non-Regressive Man Harris. How does it feel to be non-regressive today, Sam?
At the present moment, the most crucial point for us to focus on is...
I agree with that.
You didn't let me finish.
Regressive. I agree with that.
Honestly, Dave, if you believe that you can just agree with your guests on everything they say, you're totally...
I agree with that.
It's like if you're not embodying...
I can't believe it. I can't believe it though. This is actually, I don't know, kind of good, but it's good because it's making fun of Dave Rubin specifically.
the mythos of the archetypal hero by metaphorically dying. You're never gonna kill the snake man, let alone rescue your father from the underworld. Who has 1 billion of anything? Nobody. It's absurd.
I agree with that.
I hope you're doing well, Dave.
I agree with that.
Oh my god.
Okay, so you're agreeing with me, Dave, but you haven't actually given me an explanation for why you agree.
The regressive left.
Okay, I'm sorry
Who's this supposed to be?
to interrupt, but Dave, how attractive was your single mother? Did she leave you a daycare?
I agree. Anita Sarkeesian spent $17 billion on a 30-second video where she says the word feminism 4 times. After promising her donor she could get the video done in... I agree with that.
Honestly, gang, I knew this was happening. He was agreeing with all of us.
This is clearly not an honest person that we're dealing with. I view him truly as a bad actor.
Well, that depends on what your definition of...
Who's this guy supposed to be, though? Who's this balding man? Tell me, chat.
truth is, Sam.
Oh, not this again.
So, I'm not the only one he agrees with?
Okay,
Or it might be Thunderfoot? I don't know.
folks, clearly, as I've mentioned, he's been agreeing with all of us on everything when he should only be agreeing with me on everything, okay? If you think
Cult
we're
of
ever
Dusky?
going to be doing your show again after this, you are sorely mistaken, Buster Brown.
My gosh! What you have done here today cuts to the depth of my soul and strips me of my faith in human virtue. I may have brought humanity 1,000 years forward in moral philosophy, but you've set it back 2,000. I can't think of anyone more likely to have been spanked as a child.
Good luck finding new people to interview, you Oedipal tyrant.
What the fuck was the... What is this?
And he brought me like a year, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I was out in LA and we recorded a sequel video to it, which we still have not finished or released. But in the sequel video, I had to do my impression of Dave Rubin to Dave Rubin's face, and it was like a really mean impression. I was like, this is like, I was like, I deserve this. I 100% deserve this. I take no joy in it. So as for my work, you were asking which video is the most popular. I think the most popular is Fighting Nazis, then versus now. I can double check on that. But the basic idea behind that video was you had all these lefties going around saying right-wingers are all Nazis and calling them Nazis for things which my grandfather, who fought in the Second World War, believed. And there are some things where you can argue, okay, when it comes to some of the people who get labeled Nazis, like if they're, if they're into racial politics in that way, or they're, white nationalists, then you sort of understand the comparisons. But often people will get called Nazis for things like being against abortion or against gay marriage or believing in two genders. I mean, for goodness sake.
Yo, my dude, it's 2021. Gay marriage has been legal for like 6 years now? 7 years almost? It's like the end of 2021, so yeah, like 7 years. Like, dude, just... Yeah, at this point, you're again... When, like, imagine going around saying, like, you're in favor of, like, mandatory... I was about to say mandatory vaccinations, but, you're in favor of food regulations? What? How can you possibly be in favor of those? Things were so much better back when we ate, like, literal rats in with our meat. Okay, things were so much better when people's hands would just get caught in like the meat grinder, and like the meat got packaged along with the beef. Okay, those were the good old days. Like, what are you talking about?
Dr. Peterson has been called one. I'm sure I've been called one. Like, this is just a term people throw around.
I haven't yet.
Congratulations, Atadag.
No.
I don't know if I have, to be honest, but I know that as soon as but that just means I'm not influential enough, right? Like, once you have a large enough platform, that's just the swear word people have for you.
Also,
so,
Bailey Doomy, thank you.
I just
1991,
wanted to
thank you
do
for
this
the
video
follow.
because it was like, my grandfather and all the guys he fought alongside would be appalled by your lifestyle, choices, and like the idea that you would call them a Nazi for that was hilarious. So
I mean, sure, my grandfather also was raised to believe that black people should never get the vote, but like, a little bit column A, a little bit column B.
Just thought it'd be funny to do a cartoon where a bunch of lefties build a time machine and bring these World War II veterans out of the war and into their own time and tell them, Nazis have invaded America, look what they're doing. And then they start describing all the things that the Nazis are doing, and the soldiers are like, that just makes sense.
I mean, this guy knows that, like, during World War II there were Nazis in America, right? Like, he knows that in like the 1930s Nazis were active in America, right? Like, there were literal camps you could send your kids to get make like Nazi camps, but not like death camps, but like summer camps. Like, yeah, Nazis had a giant rally in New York in 1939. Henry Ford literally gave the Protocols of the Elders of Zion to Hitler. That is what he received his award for. Like, when they're talking about this stuff, like, yeah, people in the 1940s knew that there were Nazis in America. In fact, if you pointed to one after World War II, or like, hey, that guy's going around saying Nazi shit, they'd probably be on your side. They'd probably be first in line to punch that guy in the face. Hitler tweaking at the Olympics, yeah.
It's actually, I'm not sure how much of it would make sense for me to spoil here, but one of the first jokes is they give them like a Donald Trump pamphlet on his positions. And one of the soldiers goes, this guy's disgusting. This guy thinks two men can get married. And the lefters like, no, that's not what's wrong with him. But like, realistically, if you're going to try to compare yourself to the people who fought in World War II, you should expect more conservative leaning social values. So
conservative-leaning social values literally were the building blocks of the Nazi movement. Like, this is 1947? No, we're not watching this again. Not right now.
Okay, folks, so as you know, Nazism is on the rise and we need to stop them, which is why I've invented a time machine to bring back the people who defeated Nazism in the first place.
Perfect. Yes.
Hey, this ain't Normandy.
What gives? What year is it?
It's 2018!
Why did you say that so weird?
Sorry, force of habit. We brought you to the future because Nazism is on the rise in the US, and our president is sympathetic to them!
What?
Here's a pamphlet with all his positions.
This fella's disgusting.
Right?
This boyfriend thinks two men can get married. What?
And that a man who cuts his dongle off is a woman?
Sounds more like a commie to me.
That's not how that works. And again, literally the reason people don't know about trans folks is because the Nazis burned the research on trans people. Because prior to that, the Weimar Republic was one of the best places to be if you were gay and trans.
But hey, same difference. I'll kill either one.
That's not what's bad about him.
It gets worse. What else are these Nazis doing?
They believe there are only two genders.
Well, of course there's more than two genders. Thank goodness. Yeah, the Russians have their gender, the Germans have their gender, the Japanese have their gender. Everybody's got an gender.
No, not agenda. Gender.
What the hell is gender?
Sounds like some kind of phony word popularized in the 50s to create a false distinction between one identity and their biological sex. Am I in?
Yeah, because they didn't have an idea of what gender was in the 1940s. No, sir.
A ballpark here? Your sex is whether you're male or female, but your gender is how you identify. So if you were born a man but want to become a woman, your gender identity is as a woman and you therefore are a woman. Know what?
So you guys think men can be women?
Well, that's the biggest crock of nonsense I ever heard.
Yeah, none of this sounds like Nazism to me.
Well, how about this? He wants people to pay for their own birth control.
Oh no! Yeah, birth control is legal?
The guy.
Wait, most people were in favor of birth control being legal. Wait, that contraception was like a great thing that people wanted. For the most part.
Guys who defeated Nazism are such Nazis.
You know, I don't like you pinkos going around telling people you're fighting Nazis just because you berate everyone you disagree with. You've never fought a Nazi in your life, and to claim otherwise is stolen valor.
Yeah, and you know what? When actual Nazis come around, no one's gonna want to fight them anymore, because...
Yeah, opposing Nazism is stolen valor, and people aren't gonna want to fight Nazis when you keep calling people Nazis, because they're afraid that they'll look bad by fighting Nazis. What? Like, this guy is insane. No, he's not insane. Insane people are smarter than this. He is completely untethered from reality.
You guys keep crying wolf.
Now let's go back and win ourselves a war.
You know, I almost don't want to anymore. Wait! Don't go! We need you!
We need to say you're on our side so we can convince the greater whole of society.
FreedomToons knows that, like, World War II veterans still exist today, right? Like, FreedomToons knows that, right? Like, people who actually fought Nazis and who were in, like, the death camps, like, they're still around. Literally, there are still people alive today who were in Nazi death camps for being gay or trans. They still exist. Like, I don't know, like, this idea that, like, well, first you'd have to have a time machine, but also that, like, none of the soldiers themselves were gay, like, only the straights went to war. Like, what are you talking about? Come on. Hey, Claudio, thank you so much for subscribing. It's all in the past, so it's all completely over. Yeah. Look, there are black and white pictures of it happening, so that means that it, those people are long dead. We got to talk to Holocaust survivors at my temple, some of the last people ever to experience that firsthand. Hey, Melissa Biss, that's cool. Yeah, like, this idea that you'd need a time machine for this, or you couldn't just, like, ask them yourself. Like, I literally know people in the trans community in Minnesota who are, like, in their 70s, 80s, and they're finally today feeling safe enough to come out as gay or trans. And, like, some of those people served in World War II. You know? Like, I don't know. My grandpa served in World War II. He liked gay and trans people just fine. And he was a goddamn war hero. Let's see. What's the point of fighting for freedom if you're just fighting for your own beliefs?
To accept violence against dissidents who stand in the way of the social order we seek to establish.
And how exactly are they the Nazis?
Because I call them Nazis.
Well, you call men women, so...
And I struck a nerve because the...
You know... Again... One of the Nazi positions is that men aren't women and women aren't men. Like, one of the Nazi positions was explicitly anti-trans. I get so tired of bringing that up, but I feel like I need to keep bringing it up because so many people don't know that.
It racked up, I think, like 2.5 million views. And then the other one that was popular was just me making fun of Ben Shapiro.
So you've supported, like, this really racist idea that healthcare should not be for free. And I just wanted to ask about that.
Okay, so here's how this works, gang. Honestly, if you can't see that a universal healthcare system is bad for America, you're wasting my time, okay? Okay, folks, so the healthcare cost crisis didn't actually begin until the government got involved by creating Medicare and Medicaid, because when you artificially stimulate demand, there's no incentive to lower price. Not to mention, you are not entitled to the product of somebody else's labor. That's called slavery, gang, okay? This is what would actually happen under a universal healthcare system. Here's what a single-payer healthcare system would actually do, okay, folks? It would actually make doctors literal slaves who would have to live in cabins on a plantation somewhere, all right, folks? And the idea that doctors are just your slaves who you can marry without their consent and then make half doctor, half regular people babies with. Okay, well then what happens to the babies? Are they now doctors? Are they slave doctors who have to be doctors, or are they free? Like, now what, gang? Okay, so that's why that system would just never work.
But I should just get healthcare. I should just get it for free.
And that's how you talk to a leftist.
How does Ben...
You should get healthcare. The most efficient way of bargaining for health insurance is collective bargaining. The bigger the pool you have, the lower the price you can negotiate. And you need to have healthcare in order to be free. Otherwise, you're just constantly under threat of dying, and I can't believe that that's something you're willing to tolerate in the land of the free.
Shapiro feel about that?
He's been very cool. He's been very cool about it. So later on, he did a video reviewing...
My dude, I have a piece of advice for you, okay? Drink when you're not talking. Take a drink of water when you're not talking. It's very distracting and weird when you have to, like, say, like, half a sentence and then drink your water. It's very distracting.
My video. And then I did a video of Cartoon Him reviewing the video of him reviewing my video. So we just got a couple layers deep with it. But he was very cool. He was watching the video. He was laughing.
It's like, okay, honestly, I'm going to be real with you. FreedomToons is actually a fantastic outlet. And they make very funny cartoons. So you should go check them out. Go to freedomtoons.com right now. Okay, folks. They're fantastic. Go subscribe, youtube.com/freedomtoons. These are fantastic guys. I love them. He's super cool about it. Super cool. I've never met him, but every time he's encountered my work, he's had a good sense of humor about it. He's shared it. He's praised it. So he's been very cool.
I've met him, and that sounded quite a bit like him.
Honestly, if we cover the camera, maybe we'll
just let Jordan Peterson rest, okay? He looks very sad. He looks very sleepy. He's missing his afternoon nap for this. Just let him sleep. Sleep now, sweet prince.
Say he's here.
Yeah, that was quite interesting hearing that coming out of your mouth so quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take it as a compliment.
I will add a couple.
Wait, that didn't sound like a compliment. He said that was very interesting coming out of your mouth. I wouldn't interpret that as a compliment, personally.
Couple of clips into the podcast so that people can see what we're talking about. I like the Thanksgiving dinner one.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, folks, who made these cranberries? Honestly, these are the worst cranberries I've ever tasted. I made them, and it's actually extremely impolite for you to insult my cooking on Thanksgiving, okay, folks? Our taste buds don't care about your feelings, okay? Okay, gang, well, if you want to make your own cranberries, feel free, but you're not entitled to free food, and the idea that you would complain over quality of service when you're receiving it for free is just ridiculous, okay? Okay, can somebody please pass the mashed potatoes, folks? Auntie, these are my mashed potatoes, okay? I made them myself, and they're therefore the product of my own labor. And the idea that you feel it's acceptable to put a gun to my head and force me not only to give you the mashed potatoes, but to actually have me pass them to you as well is absolutely asinine, okay? Okay, well, that would be a solid argument if not for the fact that you're eating asparagus, which I made, okay? Ben, how could you seriously not pass the mashed potatoes after taking her asparagus? Is it my fault she gave it away for free and lost all leverage? I'm trying to teach my child how to compete and succeed within the free market, okay, folks? Good gaga, folks. I didn't realize I was surrounded by communists. I have the mashed potatoes and the asparagus because I make good decisions, okay, folks? Honestly, Ben, you're the last person to get smart with me, considering you're the only one in the family to be born with an IQ lower than 300. Okay, well, you know what, Auntie? Believe it or not, some people consider an IQ of 215 to be relatively impressive, all right, folks? Sorry I'm late, folks. I had more important things to take care of. I'm actually a doctor. She's a doctor, folks. His wife's a doctor, folks. She's a doctor. My wife's a doctor. Did you bring the turkey?
Gobble, gobble. Socialism works.
That one was a lot of fun to make.
Wait, that video actually seemed to, be reminiscent of one of Richard Wolff's arguments for socialism, which is that literally if you commodified, using a capitalist system, if you commodified Thanksgiving dinner between the participants of the dinner, like, everyone would fucking hate you. That was somewhat intelligent commentary. Unfortunately, no, it wasn't. But it was reminiscent of that.
It was actually, I think it was a friend who originally suggested that. They're like, you should do something where, like, it's just everyone is him.
Yeah, it was accidentally intelligent.
And it was so irresistible that I had to, and I did it. And Shapiro tweeted it, like the day I uploaded it, Shapiro said, "This is a documentary," and tweeted that out. So he's very cool about it. And yeah, I think I've mentioned this before. The work has changed a bit over the years. I started again as like a hardcore libertarian, and I was making stuff that I thought was funny and was promoting my values, but I think I put much more emphasis on, like, this has to be an educational thing. And we still do educational cartoons. I was doing like a lot of research last week on some really dark stuff
Homonyms 13,
for a couple
thank
videos.
you for the follow.
But over time it's changed. And I think over time it's also become more informed by my faith. And I also think it's become funnier. I think I've probably in like the last year or two, I've more found my voice as a cartoon writer. And I've gotten more comfortable just like getting really zany and crazy with it. So I'm really happy with like where we're at and the direction we're taking it in. And I have to say, I have some like fantastic people helping me with these. The fact that my team, it's
no one's asked you a question for like 5 minutes, dude.
Something that's not obvious to people who aren't animators, but getting a video done per week, sometimes 2 done per week, while also like managing other client work, like the fact that my team is able to do that, I say this completely unironically, I think I actually have the best team of low budget animators probably in the world. Like it's unbelievable what we've been able to achieve together. And a lot of that is just because I can depend on them and they're all very talented. So it started with just me animating this stuff by myself, and like maybe one of my buddies would help with like lip syncing and stuff. But
actually, Axteddy, I think the first step towards what you're proposing would be a postal banking system, which is why it's so exciting. The Postal Workers Union actually won a postal banking trial in 4 prominent cities, including Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. And so we're going to see a pilot program, and hopefully that will take off and allow us to be able to get through legislation that makes it easier to start democratic worker co-ops. So we can start things from the bottom and maybe put in some legislation to deal with the top at some point later. That's going to be a big fight.
Now it's probably over the past,
maybe
like,
I will,
last year is when I've
DeKalb.
gotten a lot more people on board. And it's been, like I said, a huge blessing. And by the way, are you wearing white after Labor Day? I just realized I can't.
Is
that a thing that people actually care about? Wait, do people actually care about wearing white after Labor Day? Wait, why aren't you supposed to wear white after Labor Day? Does anyone in chat know? Yo, Duchess, I'm glad finally someone said it. His swallowing is very annoying. It's a saying. I've never heard anyone bring it up.
That, like, there are a lot of like Catholics with their rules.
It's not for vestments.
What's wrong with white?
It's a joke. It's like, is that an American thing? I've just heard people say that.
It's an American thing.
Yeah.
What is it?
People say you can't wear white after Labor. No one, it's a weird thing that people say, but that like no one does. It's not an actual rule. It's just literally just the thing people say.
And is it just the day after?
I think it's in general. But then it's like it's always after Labor Day, technically. So.
Yes, I'm wearing white after Labor Day. No, I don't know what that means or represents.
It's the significance you're rebelling.
Oh, okay. So I guess it comes from the idea that white reflects more heat, so it helps keep you cool. So you should wear darker clothing in the wintertime to stay warmer, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Are we doing the Jordan Peterson? The reason I wanted to talk to you was for the imitation. I said it was for religion, but it's really I'm just waiting for the JBP
that
imitation.
Was a very fake.
Hold on a second.
Get as uncomfortable as humanly possible.
I appreciate that. You know,
no problem.
Comfort can kill the soul. And
suffering is good for you. I think
that's right. We're not called to comfort. We're called to greatness, as Benedict XVI said when he was Ratzinger. Man, this is a tough one. So this is no more questions about my work. You're just going to launch into my impression. Okay. Well, someone in the comments asked, and I saw you put that tweet out, what questions should I ask him? And one of the comments was to ask me to review Shrek 2 as Jordan Peterson.
Yes, okay. That's a fantastic question.
All right. I didn't know I was going to have to do it in front of him. I was hoping I could hide here, but we'll do it. We'll give it a go, you know? It's like, what is Shrek? And that's a pretty straightforward question. Like, he's an ogre. He lives in a swamp. He doesn't have any friends, so he's not much different from you, roughly speaking. And in Shrek 2, which is a very old story, he has to go off to far, far away to meet his new in-laws. It's like, you may think meeting in-laws is a cakewalk, man, but it is not, especially if you're an ogre. And so what does Shrek do? Well, he brings his friend Donkey. And why is that? Why is it that he's always hanging around with a donkey? Well, because when you're an ogre who spends all of your time in the swamp, your only friend is going to be an ass. When they went to far, far away, Shrek discovered through his adventures that unlike in the first film, sometimes when people reject him, it's his own fault. And that if you really try and you really work at yourself, just for a moment, you can go from an ogre to a prince.
Hey, that was pretty good. And right on the spot there, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a
Good job, little buddy. Thanks for dancing for us.
very strange experience to hear my voice coming out of someone else's mouth. I have a bit of an Irish accent in your version of me.
Is that? Oh no, that means I'm doing the Canadian accent poorly.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's just an element of it that I can't hear, but...
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear more of these.
I definitely impersonate some other figures. It can be hard for me to think off the top of my head. Some other internet people, politicians. If you just want to like throw some my way, I'll let you know. Trump? Okay, first of all, some people are saying that I didn't invent the masks. First of all, I invented the mask. And frankly, some of you would look much better in a mask. Wouldn't some of you? I think Nancy Pelosi would look much better in a mask. Don't you think she'd look much better in a mask, folks? And then everyone in the audience applauds and loses their mind. She would look much better in a mask.
Maybe I need a different job.
This is
Here's
fake
the thing,
laughing.
Michaela.
Yeah?
The real difficult day is going to
Okay.
be when I have to do my Trump impression in front of Trump, if that ever happens. Because that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
My dude, why would you ever be in the same room as Trump?
He'll destroy me. He'll be like, Sleepy Seamus makes his stupid cartoons, making fun of me because I'm successful and he's not. He'll rip me apart.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We can, like that, I mean, we can end the podcast now, realistically.
I mean, if you want to get away from me, I understand.
That's what I wanted out of this podcast. Dad.
He laughs, but there's a kernel of truth behind that joke.
Dad, do you have more questions?
I was just going to ask what sort of impact Seamus thinks his cartoons have had on people. What function have you served as far as you can tell?
That's a good question. So I think that I have, and it depends on the kind of stuff we're talking about, like the FreedomToons stuff specifically. I think I've helped people to know more so than anything else that they're not insane, that there are other people who feel this way and sort of see the world for what it is rather than what they're told to believe by the dominant media culture. And that it's okay to laugh at some of this stuff, and you kind of have to. And I think I've also done things like I've educated a good amount. We've done a number of educational videos talking about Planned Parenthood and a lot of the myths they propagate and debunking things like that. So I think that contribution.
Yo, we watched that video on stream. There's no good content in there.
Has been good as well. Most recently, I think what we've done is just make people laugh over things that would normally make them cry and maybe give them a break from the unbridled punishment that paying attention to politics is.
Wait, but I thought you said suffering was good. Does that mean you're doing something evil by making people laugh?
No more questions on my end.
Well, thank you so much.
Seems
thank you so
contradictory,
much.
is
This
all.
has been fantastic.
That was really interesting. Yeah. Then thank you, Dad.
It was a pleasure
for
meeting
joining.
you.
Yeah, educate.
It was a
doing
pleasure
lot of
meeting you as
lifting.
well. It was a pleasure meeting you. And I may have to ask for a cameo from you at some point in the future.
no one looks comfortable with that idea. No one here looks comfortable with that idea.
Oh,
That can likely be arranged, yes.
For the FreedomToons channel?
We'll see, yes.
Dun, dun, dun. Where can people find you if they're not familiar with your work?
That's a good question. So youtube.com/freedom.
Why do I think this interview is so stilted? Well, I mean, part of it's probably because this guy isn't used to, like, speaking face-to-face and, like, performance anxiety on that. And I also think that he over-talked. He didn't answer, like, the questions directly and kind of meandered a lot. And I would say the interviewer didn't really interject that much to, like, keep it on track. And also, Jordan Peterson absolutely did not want to be on here.
FreedomToons, and that's Toons. OONS, like cartoons. Some people, I see it spelled like musical tunes, cartoons, OONS. So youtube.com/FreedomToons. And I'm on Twitter at Seamus_Coughlin, which is really easy to spell. So people will figure that out. If you just want to like put a link to that in the description, that would probably
I will do that.
Be better.
Seamus Coughlin. Yeah, wow. You must have had a rough time growing up.
You know what? I did, but it shaped me into the man that I am today. And I also regularly do Tim Pool's podcast, Timcast IRL. So I'm on there quite a bit as well.
Oh, really?
I have another channel. I have this channel called Politivlog that I don't upload too often enough. It's probably been like a year, and so my fans get very angry. But if you kind of want to see what few videos there are of me opining, not being animated, then check that out too.
Okay.
But wow. FreedomToons is the main one.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
My dude, like, just wait like half a second to drink your water, okay?
Thank you very much for coming on. That was fun.
Thank you. I had a blast.
Thank you.
Wait.
Coming on. That was okay.
But FreedomToons is the main one.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on. That was fun.
Thank you. I had a blast.
She says in the most flat, irritated voice you can possibly muster.
Thank you.
Wow, I hate this content. Well, now I am familiar with Michaela Peterson's content. And I guess I've demonstrated how much I hate all of you. Now, oh gosh. All right. It's time. Let's never do that again. Yeah, look, it'll be a while before we return to the Michaela Peterson well, okay?